Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of the Fishing Teacher, and really appreciate you guys coming by the channel to spend some time with me on the video. And guys, today we're going to be talking about football head jigs. We are getting in prime season for football head jigging right now. I think that May and June are the two best months of the year to throw a football head jig. So we're going to give you guys some good tips and advice and hopefully help you guys catch some good fish using those football heads over the next couple months. Also, guys, before we get started, a couple quick things I want to remind you of. We do have our summer Fish the Moment Lake Map breakdowns up on the fishthemoment.com site. These are maps I built specifically for Fish the Moment. Great resources to learn more about your favorite lake or a lake you've never been to before. Gives you 40 good GPS waypoints you can download straight to your electronic unit. So I'll link that Fish the Moment Lake Map breakdown link in the description of the video if you guys want to check that out. And also, guys, I'll link all the football head jigs and my trailers that I like in my tackle warehouse description of this video. So after the video, if you guys would like to get a few football head jigs, using that link's a good way to support the channel. So really appreciate that. Okay, now, most people know what a football head jig is, but if you don't, it's just what it says. The head on that it looks just like a little football on there. It's pointed at both ends here, sort of rounded. So it's a little bit of a different departure from a normal flipping and pitching jig or ball head jig. It's designed specifically to be dragged along the bottom. Now this is what a football head jig does. The design of this head allows it to come over rock really good. So a football head jig, the technique that you use on it is you keep contact with the bottom and you just scoot it along the bottom the whole time. I'm going to show you guys how to work it here in a second, but we're going to talk specifically about where you want to fish it and the characteristics of the jig. Now, first of all, as far as the size of the football head jig, since it is a bottom lure, you don't really care how quick it gets to the bottom. So I like to use either a 1/2 ounce or a 3/4 ounce football head jig. If I'm fishing water less than 10 foot deep and you don't have a lot of wind, a lot of times I'll use the 1/2 ounce size. But if I'm fishing on a windy day or a little bit deeper, I'll go to the 3/4 ounce. It just gets it down a little bit further. And most of the time, I'm just using some type of a natural, green pumpkin or brown skirt, peanut butter and jelly, something like that. And the trailer I use, my favorite is a Zoom Z-Craw on back here. It's sort of got some subtle legs on it. This is my favorite trailer for a swim jig. A lot of guys use the bigger flapping trailers like a Speed Craw or a Rage Craw. But in my opinion, guys, I've done really good on this Zoom Z-Craw right here. So that's the setup that I like to use most of the time. And it doesn't matter really what the water clarity is unless it's muddy. I mean, those natural colors seem to always work a little bit better. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about how you want to work a football head jig, and then we're going to talk about the areas you want to fish it in specifically. But it's all about the drag on a football head jig. So normally what I'll do, make my cast out there, let it go to the bottom, and I keep my rod tip at about horizontal position. So I'll keep the horizontal position and I'll pull it like that without reeling. And then I reel up the slack as I'm going like this because I want the bait to still be going forward a little bit. I don't ever want it to stop. So in other words, what I'm saying is after I make the cast out there and I'm pulling it like that, I'm reeling it like that as I'm taking up the slack. So when I'm pulling it, the football head jig's going along the bottom like that. And when I take up the slack, it's going to slow down a little bit, but it's going to keep moving forward. And then I'll pull it again and it goes a little bit faster. You don't have to put any action on the bait. You don't have to hop it. All you have to do is drag it. So if you're making your cast like that, that's the way to do it. Just pull like that. And if you're a co-angler fishing out the back of the boat, I have fished with probably the best football head jig co-angler in history. His name was Frank Divis. Frank passed away a couple of years ago, but Frank dominated the FLW Tour as a co-angler for years, and all he did is fish a football head jig, and he just cast it out the back of the boat and just hold his rod and drag it like you were dragging liver for a shad or something like that and catch a bunch of fish. And normally this is what will happen. You make a cast out there, and when the bite happens, you'll pull it like that, and all of a sudden you'll just feel your bait like lift up off the bottom, like it's sort of like you've lost contact with the bottom. And if you feel that, take up the slack, and if you feel the fish move, and set the hook. And sometimes when you take the slack off like that, they'll hit it when it's just barely moving. But a lot of times on a football head jig, the strike is not very obvious. It's a pretty subtle strike, and it's not, you don't have a line tick or you don't have a hard strike. Most of the time, it just feels like there's some mushy weight on there. And the best way to describe it, you're feeling contact with the bottom as it goes along, and all of a sudden, if you feel like you lose contact, almost like if you feel like you're dragging along the bottom there and it drops off into a drop off, a lot of times that's when the fish will get it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about when you want to fish it, conditions for it. Now, football head jig for me, it's like I like to have at least about 2 foot of visibility. Anything over 2 foot of visibility is perfect. I've caught them in 2 feet, I've caught them in 20 foot of visibility and 10 foot. Bass will hit it about any condition with that. And it's really, really good in the post-spawn time of the year when those fish begin to move out a little bit deeper. This is when a football head jig really excels, because a lot of times in May and June, depending upon the lake that you're fishing, the fish will either gravitate towards main lake and secondary points, they'll get on ledges, they'll get on drop-offs, maybe a little bit deeper flats. And this is where a football head works really good, because since you're using a 3/4 ounce lure, you can cover a tremendous amount of deep water in a hurry. Football head jig fishing, it's not like regular jig fishing. You can cover some water with it since you're reeling that jig in. So that's one of the benefits to it. But one of the things that I like to look for on my football head jig structures is I want a fairly flat taper. I don't want like a steep drop off to it. It doesn't seem to work as good with that. It gets hung up a lot if there's rock. The big rocks, I'm talking like riprap size rocks. So I like some type of a flatter slope, something like less than a 45-degree angle. Long flat points are probably my favorite places, or ledges and drop-offs. That's going to be the best area for it. Now, the good thing about a football head jig is it works under about any weather condition. I don't care if it's raining or windy or sunny with no wind. Football head jig is just a really good bait with that. And it's just a really good bait for those post-spawn bass. For whatever reason, they like it, and big fish like it. Football head jig has won a ton of tournaments in May and June. It's probably one of the best ways to catch quality bass. And one of the things that you can do with the football head jig is you can mix it up with a 1 and 2 punch with a deep dive and crankbait. One of my favorite ways to do it is I'll start out maybe on these points or on these ledges with like a big deep diving crankbait, and if there's any aggressive fish there, a lot of times, that big crankbait will catch them right off the bat, and then you can go back through those areas and mop them up with a football head jig. That's a really good comeback lure with that. Now, a lot of guys, I like the Z-Craw trailer on there, but a lot of guys, they like a brush hog, like a full-size brush hog, like bit in half. That's been a really good, technique for that. But you sort of just have to experiment. I mean, I know some guys that just use chunks on there that don't have any action at all on it. But the main thing, guys, it's just a simple bait to fish. It's really easy. I'm talking about doing the pulling and reeling technique, but you could probably just throw it out there and just slowly reel along the bottom. If you get somebody that doesn't fish much, just throw it out there and reel it in. Have them keep the bait on the bottom. They got a good chance of catching some fish doing that. But anyway, guys, simple bait to fish. This is the time of year to fish it. Once that water temperature starts to hit about, upper 60s to around 70 degrees, it's going to start working pretty good, and works all over the country, man. It's just a great way to catch fish. So hope it helps out, guys. We'll talk later.